It's Dr. Jonathan Live. Yeah, Dr. Jonathan Live. Thanks for tuning in to the show where all things medical can go. With Dr. Jonathan, yeah, thanks for tuning in. It's Dr. Jonathan Live.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special edition of Dr. Jonathan Live. Today on the show, we have a very special guest. Live from Kansas City, we have Sam Zebarjadi, who is CEO and co-founder of Medicast. And he's also a startup mentor, and he's been very involved in the startup process throughout his career. And we're really excited to have him on the show today. So, Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Jonathan, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So let's get started. So tell me about Medicast.
So Medicast is a company that we started last year. It's a technology startup that's really focused on transforming people's healthcare experiences. And what we do is that we bring house call doctors to people's homes in under 2 hours with just a click of a button on our mobile app or website. So we're really focused on delivering amazing healthcare experiences outside of a traditional office setting. And people have loved it so far, and we're really excited to be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds really, really cutting edge and exciting. I've had the chance to talk to one of your doctors who works for you, and he's just had a wonderful experience. And as a family physician myself and really interested in this type of healthcare, I must ask, how did you get the idea for this?
You know, it was kind of one of those moments that this light bulb just went off. I was sitting down and talking with my two other co-founders. We all have very diverse backgrounds. So one of them is a house call doctor who was doing family practice for a while and started moving more into the space of doing home-based medical care. And another one of my co-founders who's a technology rock star. And we were just talking about the challenges of healthcare, and we were talking about this movement of this generation moving towards on-demand everything. You can order groceries with the click of a button. You can get a taxi. You can order food. You can basically do everything. And the light bulb kind of went off. Why shouldn't healthcare be the same? People are always complaining about it. It's something that affects every single person. And people really deserve great healthcare experiences. So why not use technology to do that and do it in real time when you need it, when you're sick, and really give people the options to feel better when they need it.
Yeah, that's really, really exciting. So just to clarify, this is a service that is an on-demand service. So instead of people going to an urgent care center or to a walk-in clinic, they can call up Medicast on the website or on the app, and they get a doctor who actually comes to their home, right? Or to their hotel room or wherever they are.
That's right. Yeah, we've seen people in their homes, their offices, their hotels. And really the key point for us is that we actually send doctors in under 2 hours. And that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So
Wow.
it's pretty magical. And, usually we try to get them there in a little under an hour if we can.
Wow. So I bet that saves a lot of trips to the ER in the middle of the night for families to have to go to the ER. Because as many viewers out there may not know, a lot of trips to the ER, a lot of urgent trips to emergency facilities can be handled with a routine doctor's office visit. And a lot of the issue is access. So it sounds like this is really helping to prevent that.
Absolutely. That's one of our big goals when we started this, was not only to deliver the convenience and really deliver compassionate care, but it was to do something great for the healthcare system. And we found that people are clogging up emergency rooms and urgent cares for these basic things that could actually be done in a remote setting. So, things like a sinus infection, an ear infection, coughs, flus, fevers don't necessarily require trips to costly facilities. So, by keeping people outside of hospitals and urgent cares, we really free up capacity for those facilities for people who really need it. But we're also keeping healthcare costs down, and it's great for the overall system.
What's interesting about that too is when people see your service, which is it's either subscription based or per usage based, right? So when people see that, they may think, well, that's more expensive than me just going to the ER. But in actuality, it's probably not. They're probably saving themselves money. They're not paying these big emergency room copays. And many people don't even have insurance. So the emergency room can end up costing thousands of dollars.
Right.
And so in that respect, it looks like your solution is cost effective.
Absolutely, yeah. We've actually done a lot of research. We've pulled a lot of data, and we've actually looked at even people who are insured. There's a movement of people to these high deductible insurance plans. People are spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 out of pocket for these illnesses. We recently ran some case studies with some pretty big self-insured employers and looked at the data. We looked at how much they were spending on people going to the emergency room for a sinus infection. Those people, either from the insurance or the high deductible perspective, were paying $800 plus for these visits. And so we really do see this as being cost savings. And outside of that, there's an intangible benefit that comes with the time, with the fact that you're not sitting and waiting for hours, you're not around other sick people necessarily, and that, again, you're in the comfort of your home. And there's so much that a physician, as you would know, Dr. Jonathan, there's so much that you can glean from being in someone's kind of home. You can see how they live, you can see their surroundings. And there's a holistic view that you can put on their health and suggestions you can make around how they can live better lifestyles.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I do house calls myself as part of my traditional practice, and it's really amazing to be in a patient's home and see what their obstacles are, what challenges they're dealing with, where their medications are stored. You really get a much more holistic view of them, and the patients love it. So I'm sure that especially the patients that use your service, who are used to having to go to an emergency room, really value the service you're providing. And really the doctors must be happy too, because it's really just back to basics, old school medicine in a futuristic way, really.
Totally. That's kind of what we say. We say it's old school medicine powered by 21st century technology, and it really is. And it's kind of funny. People have they romanticize this concept of old school doctors going in with a black bag, and our doctors do the same, but instead of having the old stuff, they have new things, and they pull out iPads and great, diagnostic gadgets. But it's the same experience. It's getting back to the root of healthcare, and physicians spending quality time with the patients, things that you don't necessarily get in a traditional office setting. So instead of 6 or 8 minutes with the doctor, you're now getting 30, 45, 60 minutes with them. So it's a very different experience.
Yeah, definitely. Now, have you thought about making this service more into a regular practice, meaning your routine visit, your doctor will come to your house for that, or are you pretty much just keeping Medicast as an urgent service?
For now, we're really focused on the urgent care.
Okay.
We encourage people to have relationships with their primary care providers. We really help facilitate that and pass information back to the physicians. So we're not into cannibalize that business. We really encourage people to maintain, obviously, good insurance for catastrophic needs. So right now, we're really focused on the urgent care, and there's a huge segment of the market that can really benefit from this. We naturally see, as consumers become educated, they're going to get smarter about getting wellness visits when they need them, getting urgent care when they need them, and really using the facilities as needed. So it's really an ongoing education process for everyone in the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, and it certainly sounds that way. You've expanded, right? You're in many different states now, right?
We're just in one state right now.
Oh, okay.
So we started late last year in South Florida, in kind of the Miami, South Florida area. We're quickly expanding. We actually hope that by the time people see this, we'll be live in Los Angeles, in Orange County, and we're hoping to rapidly expand to other parts of California as well. We're looking to try to get our service out to Kansas City and a few other places across the U.S. So we're really excited. 2014 is all about rapid growth, rapid expansion, and getting the service in the hands of people who have really been asking for it over the past several months as they've seen us grow.
Yeah, sure. Not just the patients, but I can also speak from the doctor perspective too. A lot of doctors would love to do something like this. Really gets them back to basic medicine. It sounds like a really rewarding job. So I'm sure that you will not have any trouble getting either doctors or patients to become part of your service once you expand.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We have a pretty healthy list of physicians across the U.S. who've expressed interest in doing this. And really our whole strategy is around getting city to city, making sure that we have the right number of doctors in each place, and really working on building the consumer knowledge of what we're doing, and awareness rather. And then really just making sure that we're continuing to stick with our core message, which is around delivering high quality care. We really pride ourselves on the fact that we take doctors through a pretty rigorous background verification and screening process. We train all of them. we're very adamant about kind of keeping on top of them and asking customers for feedback about what things they liked and what they didn't like. We kind of use a star rating for now. I'm happy to say that we've had no ratings below 5-star all across the board, which is great. And we really want to maintain that quality of care. So whether you're seeing a Medicast physician in Miami or you're seeing one in Los Angeles or Chicago, it's going to be a consistent experience. And that's really important. I mean, people really want to feel that connection. They really want to have that compassion from the physician. And that's really part of the Medicast brand.
Yes, and it certainly appears so. I had the opportunity to speak to one of your physicians earlier. I'm sure he wouldn't mind us talking about it. Dr. Saba Ferdowsi, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yes.
Yes, and he's a wonderful physician, an osteopathic physician, as I am too. So I understand the value of that in approaching a patient from a holistic view, and also. He also has a very extensive background. It's quite impressive from a physician standpoint and a patient standpoint. So you really have some outstanding physicians working for you guys, and patients don't always get that everywhere they go in terms of traditional practices. So it's really quite exciting that you guys have the A-team of doctors who are going to your house, so you can really place a lot of faith in that rather than just going to a random urgent care center when you have no idea who's working there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really thrilled by that. And Saba is actually our co-founder and chief medical officer, and he's taken his years of experience and knowledge in this space, and he's really crafted a great message for all the physicians. And every doctor that we get is fantastic, and we love that. I mean, and people consistently tell us, we have testimonials from people telling us that this is the best medical experience they've ever had. And, we love waking up in the morning to those emails that come in. We love hearing that. And our physicians tell us that this is such a magical experience for them because they, really get to go back to the root of healthcare. They get to go back to why they went to med school for all those years and racked up all that debt.
Yeah.
Was to really help people feel better, much like you've seen yourself. So we're just really thrilled. I mean, for us, it's all about the service of, the service element of it, of doing good for humanity, doing good for people, and really using technology to do that.
Oh, yeah, sure. I can actually imagine that patients, after they see one of your doctors, don't want to go back to their regular doctors. So I bet that that's something they think about too. But that's great that it sounds like you keep up the communication with the primary care doctor, because it's so important to have communication in healthcare, especially when patients are having different doctors. So that's a service that I bet is very well appreciated.
Absolutely.
As well. I wanted to move on and talk a little bit more about the entrepreneurial aspect. A lot of our viewers are startup entrepreneurs or other types of entrepreneurs. And what has your experience been in that field?
I've been fortunate enough to be on all sides of the entrepreneurial spectrum, from working at startups, starting startups, being at startups that have been acquired, working at startups that have failed, doing things from an advisory perspective, working with different startup accelerators, both as a participant and a mentor. So for me, it's such an amazing thing. I mean, this whole concept of entrepreneurship, of people identifying problems and really trying to bring solutions to them, especially as it comes to big world problems. And that's why healthcare is so amazing. Everything that's being done around telecommunications and mobility and actually connecting people and bringing them on the internet all around the world. It's been amazing. And I think the one thing that I've learned along the way is that, persistence beats resistance in entrepreneurship.
I like that.
It's really difficult, but if you keep at it and you're really driven, then you'll succeed. And it's awesome. Just, I've been surrounded by a group of awesome entrepreneurs everywhere I've been, and everyone keeps each other very honest and very motivated and driven.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think that, or I know that most startups fail. Probably over 90% fail.
90%, right.
And it's usually not because they have a bad idea, but it's because I think of the execution. And I think that persistence is so important, because everybody's going to fail when they start a startup at some point, but they just have to learn from that and keep pursuing it. It's those folks who give up on their ideas after they meet some initial setbacks that fail big time. So do you have an example of a setback that you overcame? Probably a lot, right?
laundry list. There's a laundry
Yeah.
list. I mean, I think with our current startup, we've had our fair share of challenges and road bumps along the way. We've had issues when it came to just getting started. How do we do things on the regulatory landscape, dealing with things around fundraising? We have a bullet list of things that hopefully, if we're successful one day, we'd love to write a book about. But early on, we had an investor come in and signed a term sheet with us and got us down the road of things and basically disappeared, didn't end up putting in the money. We had basically quit our jobs at that point. We were doing this full time, and we were at the point where we didn't know where the next amount of money was going to come from. And out of nowhere, we found a really great investment group and partners who helped us do more, do it better, and do it faster. And I think that's just a testament to, being an entrepreneur at heart and really continuing to go down that road, even when it gets really tough and it's really tumultuous. You just got to keep at it. And, and that's just a really small example. And that's just something that, isn't that big a deal. But you hear these stories quite a bit from different entrepreneurs. You hear about how they started something and a big company kind of beat them to the punch, and how they had to kind of change their message and change the way they do things. You hear about founders, basically breaking up and that really tearing companies apart from the ground level. So, there's so many foundational things that are so important as you build companies or as you look to get out there. And one of the best things you can do is learn from others. It's to, read the books from the serial entrepreneurs and successful VCs who've been out there and just network. I mean, there's a plethora of knowledge out there, and every day for me, it's learning. I learn from the people I work with. I learn from the people I'm surrounded with, and that's the beauty of life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to surround yourself with a good team who's willing to work hard.
That's the key. It's surround yourself with people who are smarter than you.
Absolutely. I always say if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Spot on.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot from that. Everybody I work with, I'm constantly just so impressed by them, and I can't believe that I'm part of these circles that I'm part of, and that's how I know that I've chosen the right group of people to be with. Another thing I always like to think of is anybody you meet, you can learn something from. You have something to learn from every single person that you meet, especially in the entrepreneur circles and in all these networking entrepreneurial events we go to. Never miss a chance to hand out your card and tell your message and try to learn something from people. Which brings me to the next thing. I have a lot of viewers who are really beginning entrepreneurs. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, what got you interested in entrepreneuring? Yeah,
so I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. I joined my first startup, I think I was 14 or 15. So I knew a guy who started a company in the late 90s, a very brilliant guy, and the company was doing things around cloud-based video surveillance and storage. So before cloud was a word, before anybody was really doing anything, this was back kind of when dial-up was slowly fizzling out and DSL was a really big deal. And so I was one of the original employees of the company, helped the company grow to over 200 people. The company raised a lot of money. And from there, it really set the spark in me. I was young, I was naive, I guess. And I thought it was the coolest thing working at a company where everything was fast-paced and people were really excited about the work and everyone wore different hats. And a lot of trust was placed in me at that age. I was kind of responsible for building out an entire part of the organization, and that was really cool. But that just gave me the motivation and drive to always want to do that. Unfortunately, a couple of years later, during the dot-com bust, the company went out of business, but it taught me a lot of valuable lessons that I carry over into the job that I have today as CEO of Medicast. But after that, I kind of took a whirl around. I really got entrenched in the mobile space. So I did a stint at JP Chase for a few years, working on different technologies, kind of building up different customs compliance and healthcare compliance systems. And then I really got involved in mobility. And I spent the next 10 years in a variety of roles at different companies, building really awesome wireless technologies, from the first generation of SMS and MMS tools to the first generation of location-based types of services. I was fortunate enough to spend some time when I worked at Nextel to be a part of the $36 billion Sprint Nextel merger. So I was part of that whole team that brought the two companies together, and that taught me a lot about how big companies operate, how mergers and acquisitions work. And that was great. And after that, I did 6 years at Nokia, where I was a chief architect working on global solutions around wireless technology for enterprises and consumers. and wireless carriers. So, it's always been in me, and trying to find new technologies and really find services that help bring people closer together and make life easier. And I kind of re-engaged to my startup, roots from there. So got a lot more involved in a few startups, started doing advisory work. And I got involved with a startup accelerator called 500 Startups out of Mountain View, California. So I've been doing some mentorship for the portfolio companies there. And then a few months after that, and this was about a year and a half ago, we started Medicast. And we're fortunate now, we're in a program called the Sprint Accelerator, powered by Techstars. And it's an accelerator program that's in Kansas City. We're here for 3 months, and there's 10 companies that were picked out of several hundred who are focused in the mobile health space. All big disruptors looking to do things around health and mobile health that are really going to change the future of healthcare, both from a consumer perspective and kind of from a higher level perspective.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned the accelerators. That's a big thing right now in the startup world. These accelerators are very competitive, and there's a lot of them, and you have to apply for them, and then once you are accepted, or if you are accepted, they bring you down to their headquarters and they work with you on your idea, right? Can you go into more detail about how an accelerator typically works?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few different models of accelerators, but typically they're 90 days in length. Usually at the culmination of the event, there's what they call a demo day, and this is where you get to go show off everything you've done in front of a large group of investors, media, press, community, tech people, anybody who wants to go, basically. So you kind of start out the process by coming in and getting a lot of coaching. A lot of these programs are very mentor-driven. And the beauty of it is that you have companies who sit all across the company lifecycle spectrum. So there's companies who come in who have just an idea. There's companies who come in who are almost done with a product. There's companies who come in who are generating revenue and have been out for quite some time. And the beauty is you come in and you really spend these 90 days focused on talking to different mentors from different areas of expertise, really accelerating the business on helping develop your product, define your vision further, and really get it to the market faster, and ultimately helps you with fundraising and really growing the business. So, they call it an accelerator for a reason. Literally, we've been here for a little over 2 months. I feel like we've done a year of work in these 2 months.
Yeah, so it really saves a lot of time, and it sounds like it condenses all your resources into one area. So you're really not wasting a ton of time trying to find small resources that you might need as a new entrepreneur. And I also am really impressed by the fact that even as experienced as you are, you still find accelerators to be very valuable. Sometimes people think accelerators are maybe only for people who don't have as built up of an idea, but they're really valuable for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, the experience that you get, the mind share that you can have with others is amazing. And I think for us, being part of a Techstars program, Techstars is basically the world's leading accelerator program, and working together with Sprint, who's a leader in mobility, there are just some really awesome parallels for us. And having the access and really having the ability to be here and learn from the others and learn from the mentors, it doesn't matter how much experience you have. You can always learn more. You can always do more. And I think that is something that we didn't want to pass up when we were given the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the opportunity, every time it seems that I go to these networking events and I'm talking with so many entrepreneurs, people are essentially exchanging war stories about which accelerators they've been rejected from. So do you have any advice for people out there on how to actually get into an accelerator?
Honestly, first and foremost, most importantly, it's the team. It's have a really strong team.
Important.
And it's not just having a strong team of people who are really good at what they do, but it's having a team of people who really know each other well and work together really well. You're going to go through trials and tribulations. I mean, you're going to go through these things, and it's really important that you have that solid foundation with your team. And it's really being open to the concept of coming in and taking advice and being open to pivoting a little bit or changing and tweaking your business model. And I think a lot of people are really hesitant to that. But there's a system, there's this whole structure that kind of works, and it really helps people get to where they are. And that's why companies who typically go through accelerator programs, instead of there being a 90% failure rate, there's a 80-90% success rate.
That's right, because once you go through that boot camp accelerator, if you will, you got a pretty solid product.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that everybody knows out there, when you go to these accelerators, you're basically dropping your life for a few months, right? You're not paid. You kind of go down there with your team and work day and night on your project. And I think a lot of people are intimidated by that because many new entrepreneurs have day jobs. They're trying to keep income coming in. Did you actually go down with your entire team?
We did,
Okay.
yeah. So, that was the most difficult part of doing this, honestly. It was a really difficult decision. I have 2 small children at home and my wife at home. So it's a sacrifice,
Yeah.
it's you're leaving your family for 3 months. I live in Atlanta, and being in Kansas City, I make it home maybe once every 4 weeks for just 2 days. So it's very difficult, but our whole team did it. Our other co-founders are here. One is here from South Florida, the other is here from the Bay Area in Palo Alto, and we all have family. We all left back what we were doing. We're working 7 days a week. We're working crazy hours, but it's a small sacrifice to make for the success of your company, and I think it's just a testament to how much we believe in what we're doing, and how much our families and friends believe in it, even though they thought it was crazy at first. But it's just an awesome experience. It's something I think every entrepreneur who has the opportunity to do it and gets accepted to a program, 100% you should do it. It's an amazing experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And was your idea originally rejected from any accelerators?
No, we were fortunate enough that we got in, and actually kind of a funny story with this program. We didn't intend to apply. We kind of just did randomly. We ran into a few people who suggested we just fill out an application, and at first we didn't think we wanted to do it. So we just filled out the application, and we had some calls, and we sent a team video and a funny little 2-minute video about us being goofy and showing how we're really dynamic and why we're the best team in the world. And after we did that, we really thought long and hard about it, and they offered us a spot, and we took it without hesitation. So it was just one of those things that I think when the timing is also right, things kind of happen, and we took advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, when the stars are aligned, some things just are meant to happen. And that's really great. And I really understood what you were talking about in terms of how important it is to present yourself as a cohesive team. And I've done some of those 2-minute videos as well with my team. And it's almost like we're trying to sell to the judges that we all work really well together, and we're all in very close communication at all times, even if we live in different states, and that we're all willing to drop what we're doing and fly down there for 3 months and work towards our goal. Something what I love about entrepreneuring is how hard you guys and ladies work to make your ideas a reality. It's a tremendous amount of time and sweat and trials and tribulations and frustration that you go through, and just a roller coaster of emotions. And I always say, well, I'll save what I have to say, but let me ask you, do you have friends who are not in the field who ask you why you do this?
All the time.
And what do you say to them?
I tell them one of 2 or 3 things. I say, A, I can't sit still. Like, I always want to be doing something new and exciting. And B, it's about changing the status quo. Like, really, that's what it comes down to. I think typically, a lot of people answer, well, I want to find a way to make a quick buck, or I want to get rich, right? And
Sure.
That can be a byproduct or a result of this, but it's just not a good motivation. A lot of entrepreneurs it's like the starving artist in LA, right? You're kind of, there's always these horror stories going around about 10 people to an apartment eating ramen noodles. It's not quite that bad, but it's about changing the world. It's about doing something you're really passionate about and you really believe in. And I think that, people just don't, it takes a second to understand, but when they see that passion that you bring, they totally get it. And I think that's the other thing to programs like these accelerator programs. They want to see that you have that fire. They want to see that you're desperate. They want to see that you're willing to do anything it takes to make your vision a reality. And that's it. I mean, that's how we've gotten to where, we are as a society and as an entrepreneurial community. And I'd encourage anyone who's kind of on the edge about whether they should go full force or not, take a good look at your life and make a solid decision. I think the other thing is talk to people about what you're doing. make sure it has some validity and kind of, make sure that people are interested in what you have to offer. But if it resonates with people and you think there's a good fit for it in the market, take the jump. It's not as bad as people make it seem, and it's exciting.
Sure, absolutely, and it's really, I think the American dream is still alive and well, and a lot of that comes in the startup scene. Whereas if you're willing to work hard and you're willing to give it everything you got, you're probably not going to fail. But that's much easier said than done. I always say that the reason that you work 80 or 100 hours a week, or however many hours a week you work, is so that you don't have to work 40 hours a week. That's always how I put it to people. Some folks out there, which brings me to my next question, some folks out there really need the security of a regular job. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Some people just really need that. And I think that entrepreneurs are willing to take a risk that not everybody is. I think that an entrepreneur is, I don't think that everybody is necessarily an entrepreneur. I think it's maybe you're born with it. Maybe it's something you acquire. Do you have an opinion on that? Is everybody an entrepreneur?
It's so funny. We debate about this with with my co-founders all the time. We kind of talk about, is it something you're born with? Is it something you acquire? Camps out on that one, but I think it's, it really comes from this desire to change the world, honestly.
Absolutely.
And it sounds really cliche, but this whole concept of entrepreneurship comes with, you see that something is wrong and you want to change it, and you actually take the steps to do it. And that can come in different flavors and different forms.
Yeah.
Being an entrepreneur doesn't mean starting the next Facebook. It doesn't mean starting the next, Coca-Cola, Tesla, but it could be solving those little challenges that a lot of people face. And I think that sometimes aspiring entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are actually doing something will get a little tainted by the fact that, well, it's a lot of work, or, it's not going to be worth $10 billion. So why start? But you should, right? Yeah. If you really believe in it, you're really passionate about it, you should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like what you say about wanting to change the world. That's what entrepreneuring is all about, in my opinion. But also, you're leaving something behind when you die that will hopefully live on and be a great mark of your time on this planet. So, for instance, Medicast, I'm assuming it's a corporation that'll just kind of live on.
We hope so.
Yeah, it'll just kind of live on and evolve and grow. Yeah, most startups are corporations, right? They're C corporations. And part of the reason, not only does that make it easier for people to invest in the company, but also corporations don't die with the founders, and so I always think that that's very symbolic. But I guess that leads me to another question, which is startup funding, which is always a big deal for people, and people are always trying to get money, trying to find those investors. What advice do you have for them?
So, there's a lot of different trains of thought on this. I mean, funding is great to have if you need it. People typically think that getting funding is a measure of success, and that you've really made it when you've raised funding. And I think that's a big misnomer. That's when the work begins. When you get funding, that's kind of where you're starting to do a lot of things. And it's a lot of responsibility. You're taking money from either an institution or friends and family or angel investors who've put their hard-earned cash into it. So, you have to be very careful with what you ask for and how you do it. The other flip side of that is the fact that, getting funding has gotten easier. But at the same time, the barrier to starting a company and the costs have also lowered quite considerably. Over the past few years, you're no longer buying servers and racking them in a data center. You can just light up free instances of cloud computing servers on Amazon. You can find some pretty great talent, or you can find a couple of friends who are all willing to work on this nights and weekends and bootstrap it. So fundraising is all about doing what's right at the right time for the business. But what we found is when you have some product market fit and you've really validated that your idea is going to take, getting funding from the right people is, it's possible. It's not as difficult as people say. And the real key to that is to build relationships. The whole thing with investors is not a one-time I'm going to meet with you and it's going to be binary yes or no and it's done. Relationships take time. You need to start talking to people early on. You need to really foster those relationships with them. because they're going to be your long-term partners if they're going to invest in you. These are people who are very experienced and can really help guide you down the path. So, my advice would be is be very smart about it. Take your time, work slow, but also be very cautious about how much money, when, and who you get it from, because that can also make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important not to take money from just anybody because some of them will have requirements that you may not want to fulfill, such as equity in your company or what have you. What's a good way to network? How do you find these people?
Warm intros are always the best.
Okay.
So personal networking, personal intros are always great. One thing that doesn't work well is never email investors and say you just want to meet for coffee. That's not going to work anymore.
Okay. We're beyond that.
Yeah, these people are slammed. They get so much deal.
Right.
So try to get a warm intro and have an ask, right? If you want to talk about fundraising, talk about fundraising. If you want advice, make sure that they know that. The other thing is AngelList is a great place to start. There are a lot of people, so there's a little bit of a signal to noise ratio problem there. But that's a good place to kind of start and look for potential investors. And in events, look for meetups, look for places that people are hanging out. Conferences are usually good to kind of rub shoulders with people, and different kinds of meetups in cities. Demo day events, if you can go to, are typically pretty good because there's a large contingent of people there. But really all about the networking. Just try to find events, try to find people. Twitter's an awesome place. I mean, you can
absolutely.
I can't tell you how many investors I've met on Twitter who we've ended up actually getting money from and becoming very close with. So it's cool. I mean, it's such a small world and technology's there, so definitely use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would actually say that most of those methods that you mentioned, you can also use to find co-founders.
Yes.
Which is, I think, even more important than finding funding is finding co-founders through these meetup events, these networking events, places like cofounderslab.com, and all these places, because it's so important to have a co-founder relationship that you can foster and that's really going to grow, and that you like working with these people.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Did you know your co-founders in person, or how did you find them?
Well, one of them's my brother. So,
okay, well, that's easy enough.
We knew each other for a little while. This is the fourth company that we've worked at together and our third startup together.
Okay.
And our other co-founder, our chief medical officer, Dr. Ferdosi, is an old family friend, so we've known each other for a while.
Yeah,
that really helps. Because
sure.
we've been through our tough times. I mean, you have difficult conversations. You have times when you're really just up against the wall and there are things that are moving really fast and you have to make a decision. And everyone has opinions, and we're all about creating a culture of consultation and making sure that we all have positive impact. So we work through things, but if you don't have that foundation going in, it can get really tough.
Yeah, definitely. And even these relationships you have that can't get any closer, like your brother, I mean, you still have these difficult conversations. It's just part of business.
Natural.
People can't be afraid of it. So I would also say, as we've seen from your example, don't be afraid to work your own contacts, meaning maybe one of your friends from college or what have you would be interested in working with you as well. So it's always good to keep in touch with your own friends too, and see if you guys would like to work on the same thing together. But that's definitely really, really important. And sometimes co-founders on teams, maybe it doesn't work out and they come and go, and that's okay. You just have to finally get that cohesive team. And it sounds like you really have that now.
Yeah, we're thrilled. I mean, I ask
great.
for a better set of people to be working with.
Yeah, that's great. And that's really exciting. So the other thing that I'm curious about is Medicast is already live and well. It's going full force in parts of Florida, right? So you're at the accelerator right now. What are your hopes to get from? What do you want to get from the accelerator? Are you trying to make Medicast bigger through it, or what?
Absolutely, yeah. For us, a big metric of success is how we grow. It's how quickly and how steadily we can grow. So we're hoping to come out of the program and be launched in a couple new cities.
Great.
So Los Angeles should be launching by the 1st of June, hopefully. We're trying to get into Kansas City while we're here, so we're still working on that.
Okay.
And we're really evaluating our strategy around what cities to get into next. So we're looking at big cities across the U.S. There's a whole component around finding physicians and then
Sure.
building customer awareness. So, we encourage anybody who's watching, if you're a physician and you're interested in joining, send me an email. My information's on our website. But check us out. And even for customers, tell us where you are. Tell us where you're interested in seeing this. I mean, a lot of what we do is driven by demand. If we see that, we have overwhelming demand in Chicago, hey, we'll prioritize it. We'll come there, and maybe we could ask you to make a celebrity appearance for some of our patients.
I would be honored. That would be so much fun for me. And the first thing I said to Dr. Saba when I spoke with him was, "Are you guys planning to come to Illinois?" And he said he didn't know yet. But yeah, it would be a real privilege and so much fun to work with you guys. And really, I speak for probably most family physicians in the area. I think everybody would really have a lot of fun working with you guys. So it's a really exciting opportunity. The thing I wanted to just get back to in terms of accelerators is for people out there, accelerators are more than just having an idea. Most people who go into accelerators, they have sometimes paying customers for their product. So it's not like building from the bare basics of an idea. So there's a lot of steps you have to get through to go there, right? So it sounds like that, for instance, when you went to this accelerator, you already were Medicast, had paying customers in Florida. You just didn't have this idea for this traveling urgent care.
Right.
So there's a lot of work that has to be done even before the accelerator. So it's almost like at the accelerator, that's like the final switch that they help you turn on to get your company really going.
Right.
So, Sam, before I let you go, what is the future of Medicast, other than what you've mentioned, or not even just Medicast, but you? What's in your future?
So, I'm looking forward to making Medicast a household name. I mean, our goal and vision, really at the core of what we do, is to make sure that patients can get access to really great quality healthcare anytime they need it. Make sure that doctors can practice medicine, how and when they want, and to really get back to building those doctor-patient relationships, but do it one home at a time. And that's really our focus for now. As for where Medicast goes in 5 or 10 years, we have some ideas. We are kind of working on how we see this being, a household name all around the world. So I guess you'll just have to stay tuned to see what happens. But again, we're really focused on taking this city by city, getting out there, and really, most importantly, we just want to hear from people. So I encourage anyone who's watching who has ideas, questions, comments, feedback. Email me, call me. Let's have a video chat. Like, we're really excited to be doing this, and we're kind of paving the way for something very new in both healthcare and technology. So it's an exciting road.
And that's the great part about startups, not only from the entrepreneurial side, but I always like to be a customer for startups, because the first customers of these newer companies really are so important. It's
Absolutely.
like the CEO always reaches out to you, so it's a lot of fun. Even when I'm customer of these new startups, they want my feedback, and they really care about it. And you don't always get that when you're dealing with these big corporations, but when you're dealing with these new companies, the new customers are really partners in their own growth. So for everybody out there watching, this would be a service that you really should use if you really want just the best emergent healthcare that money can buy right now, because you're getting a small company that has outstanding doctors and facilities and everything like that. But more importantly, you're getting the care of the management team. They really care. So that's why I like it so much. So I call it fighting for feedback, because
Love it.
Because feedback is the most important thing that we can get from our patients, from our customers. So that is really, really exciting. How can people reach you? Just go to your website?
Yep, they can go to www.medicast.co. It's medicast.co. You can email me. I'm sam@medicast.co. You can check us out on Twitter. We're just @Medicast. And again, feedback anytime. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, that's right. And I certainly wish you the best of luck in the
Thank you.
future of Medicast. It's a really great company. I can't wait for you guys to expand more, so I can be part of you. And also,
pleasure to work with you.
yeah, and also. I'm always even giving patients advice on where they should go after hours, and a company like yours is one I would love to point them to. And also, good luck at the accelerator. I can't wait to see the end result in terms of that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dr. Jonathan. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay, folks, check me out at Dr. Jonathan on Twitter, and for all of Sam's information, please look in the info section below. And we hope to see you next time on this very special edition of Dr. Jonathan Live. Thanks again. See you later.